Hi Year 4 and welcome to chapter 2 of The Person Controller. I hope you enjoyed the first chapter where we met the main characters Ellie and Fred, the twins who were not identical because they were a boy and a girl. So let's find out what happens to them today. So chapter 2, Eric. Eric Stone was, there is no nice way of saying this, fat. Well, there are nice ways of saying it, and Eric did often use these ways, describing himself as big boned or portly or suffering from terrible water retention. But the truth was, he was fat because he ate too much. He didn't have terrible water retention, he had terrible bacon sandwich retention. To be fair to Eric, he did normally, after a bit of prompting from his wife Janine and his children, Fred and Ellie, go on a lot of diets. There's Dad. Might look better if he put some trousers on, maybe. He'd been on the high fibre diet and the low carb diet and the juice diet and the no juice diet and the cabbage soup diet and the pea and mint soup diet and a diet he made up where he only ate banana muffins and cheese. He'd been on the 5-2 diet, on the 6-1 diet and the 4-3 diet and the 2-5 diet and even the 17-28 diet, which meant not eating anything for a minute between 17:27 and 17:29 every day. He'd been to Weight Watchers and Chocoholics Anonymous and 16 Stoners, Self-Help and Big Boned Portly Bacon Sandwich Retenters sit around in a circle and say how it isn't really their fault. Actually, this last one was what Janine called all Eric's diet groups. Trouble was, the diets didn't make Eric any lighter. If anything, they made him heavier because every time he finished one, and he did always finish them, normally after only 4 or 5 days, he would eat about 5 times his own weight in bacon sandwiches. Eric was just tucking into a bacon sandwich, the first one he'd had after giving up on the jacket potato skin diet, which he'd followed for 2 whole days. It allowed you to eat jacket potato skins and you could put low-fat spread on them, which Eric had decided included mayonnaise. When the thing that happened to Ellie's controller, which was so upsetting, happened. The bacon sandwich, in a way, was what caused the whole thing. Because whenever Eric Stone had his first bacon sandwich after a diet, he would become so entranced by the fatty saltiness of the pork rashers and how deliciously it sat against the brown sauce smeared white bread that he would forget everything else and close his eyes, and he would lose himself in that bacon sandwich. Unfortunately, the point at which he was losing himself in this particular bacon sandwich was also the point at which he was sitting down on the sofa in front of the TV, plate in one hand, sandwich in the other, in his pants. His big grey, bought in 1987 Y-front pants. Ooh. He had been planning to open his eyes shortly and watch TV, but not for a little while. Not until he'd really savoured the saltiness. Not until, oh, said Eric, opening his eyes very wide. What is it? Said Janine, not bothering to turn away from Cash in the Attic. Janine Stone never missed an episode and was convinced that one day she herself would find something in the attic worth millions of pounds, which was odd as the Stone family lived in a ground floor flat. I've sat on something, Jay, said Eric. Well, move it off it then, said Janine, still looking at the screen while stroking the family cat, a white fluffy beast called Margaret Scratcher. I can't. You can't. I think it's stuck. Eric stood up. He turned round, facing away from his wife. Interestingly, despite the obvious pain he was in, at no point did he stop eating his bacon sandwich. Can you see it? He said. What do you mean, can I see it? He glanced over his shoulder. Stop watching Cash in the Attic just for a second. With a big tut, Janine Stone forced her eyes away from the television and looked across Margaret Scratcher's fur at her husband's back. Then she lowered her gaze a fraction. What's that? She said. What's what? That black thing poking out of your pants. That's what I want to know, said Eric. Never mind it poking out, it's poking me. There was another tuck from behind him. Eric had once admitted quietly to his friends in his works canteen over a bacon sandwich that if his wife was a noise, she would be a tut. For pity's sake, Eric, bend over. Eric did as he was told. There was a short pause as Janine and Margaret Scratcher peered. Eric felt he could hear them peering. Then she said, "How on earth did you get that stuck up there?" "How on earth did I get what stuck up there?" "My video game controller," said another voice. Ellie's voice, in fact, sounding very upset. Reasonably, really, since she had just come into the living room to see her mother reaching out of her slightly disgusted hands to retrieve her most prized possession from between the cheeks of her father's 1987 Y-front panted bottom. Well, there's a lesson to every story, children. Be careful where you watch it, where you put your controllers when you've been playing on your video games. Okay, then. Well, it sounds like it's going to be quite a funny book, which isn't surprising because actually David Baddiel, who wrote the book, is actually quite a famous comedian as well. So hopefully it'll carry on being funny and entertaining. It seems so far like we've got some good characters in Mum and Dad. So let's see how we get on with our next chapter. Okay, see you soon for chapter 3, children. Bye.